The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 10. Paul Shaughnessy here, Pat Mayo behind the scenes, and Cody Saftic here in studio. Got 12 fights. I mean, we say it every single week. We're still in Vegas. I think some fights are going to drop off. I mean, that just happens every single week now, it seems.
It's the norm.
I mean, Saturday, you got to be, if you have DraftKings lineups in, you got to be ready. You got to be ready to pivot off of people. If you have 150 lineups, I only kind of do like single entry for the most part on it. But yeah, if you have 150 lineups, like you got to be on the ball because people are dropping like flies. Last weekend, pretty good, especially you. You bailed me out, basically. I had a little bit too much on Bartos. Hindsight 2020. Good call to anybody who was on Muniz in that spot.
Oh, that's why when I put the parlays the morning out, I put him down.
As soon as I saw him down on your list, I got nervous. And then as fight was happening, I was like, oh,
do you want to know something?
I think I've done something real dumb here.
Retaped the whole fight, and every single one of Bartos' fights, every single one of them, doesn't matter who he's fighting. Hector Urbina, Darren Stewart, doesn't matter. Gareth McClellan, doesn't matter. He always put his head into the guillotine choke. And I'm thinking, geez, you know what? Muniz might catch him at the guillotine. When he popped his head out of the guillotine, I was like, oh, Bartos is going to Bartos, bitches. And then, bam, armbar from guard. Normally, we always talk about the women's MMA fight, armbar from guard. But third degree black belt, BJJ, Andre Muniz. He definitely showed his jiu-jitsu's on a different level, and Bartos had a problem with sticking himself into submission. So he lost, Menafield lost, the 7-fight card. Those are the 2 losses. At least we buried them down a little bit on the tickets. And now we got 12 fights as of right now. We've also got a Bellator card. So maybe if I tweet some stuff out a little earlier, maybe by Friday, we put a couple Bellator pieces on. Who knows? But
let's get in
for
there.
the time being, people say not a great card, but I see some spots I like. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, same here. And there's 12 fights as of right now to break down. So we got Angela Hill taking on Michelle Waterson in the main event. Minus 135 Hill, plus 110 Waterson. I'm not going to lie to you, Cody. I don't have very much interest in betting this fight. I think on DraftKings later on when we talk about that, you may, because it's 5 rounds, have to consider one of these 2 ladies in your roster. But I do kind of see this as a 50-50 fight. Maybe Angela Hill, slight edge in terms of volume. I'm not going to be surprised if Michelle Waterson wins by submission. She probably has the advantage on the ground here. Angela Hill has been exploited in that realm, but it's not like Waterson's some sort of superstar in the grappling department. She just probably has the better submission game. This is a big time. It's the main event. I know that usually we give it a lot of talk and stuff like that, but this is not a fight that I feel like I have any sort of edge on. What about you?
Yeah, fair enough. So this was announced initially not as the main event. We're supposed to get Glover Teixeira versus Thiago Santos. So COVID already striking and takes off what would have been a sweet little main event. And now we've got this moved up to 5 rounds, and I think that's a big difference. 3-round fight. Ooh, I could be very tempted into taking Michelle Waterson, especially as an underdog. I think that she is the cleaner striker. The problem is, just as you mentioned, is the output. She looks like $1 million for maybe 5 minutes, the first round. And then it just seems like maybe her opponents figure her out, or maybe the output just falls off completely, but it wanes out. So, okay, it's hard to say. Let's look at the Joanna and Jacek fight. That's one of the greatest strawweights of all time. Now fights at 125, went 5 rounds to Shevchenko. But at least let's look at the Joanna and Jacek fight for what it was, and that she was outstruck 180 to 58. And then you just look up at the round by round, right? And it gives you just, 31 to 11 in Jacek, 34 to 15, round 2, 36 to 7, round 3, 46 to 12, and 33 to 13. Handily outstrikes her 3-1 in all 3 rounds. But it's Joanna and Jacek. You can easily write it up. Now, you got Carla Esparza. Well, Carla Esparza is top talent, but completely different. She wants to wrestle you. And if she doesn't succeed in getting the takedowns against Michelle Waterson, she's fucked, right? I mean, how's she going to outstrike Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie, someone who's been striking their entire life, someone who's got a good American karate, full contact karate background, black belt.
She's been on American Ninja Warrior.
And MTV's the challenge. And I don't know, a better athlete. She's a lot faster. She's a lot cleaner and more technical. Where she's going to have trouble is Esparza is just a bulldog, stays in your face, and we'll get those takedowns. Now, you look at the first round of that fight, and Joe Rogan is just having an orgasm ringside. Oh my God, Michelle Waterson, her striking's so complex. It's just so beautiful. How do you figure this
Jones
out?
used to say the same thing about her, is that she was the person that he would watch in the room at Jackson Wink.
Right, and now very similar to a John Jones, let's say, and very similar to Joe is just, wow, this is so beautiful. I'm pretty sure he had to actually change his pants between rounds. That's how much he's into her in the first round. She lands 9 significant strikes in the first round. Outstrikes Esparza 9-5. But Esparza gets that takedown, 48 seconds left in the round. Maybe, my opinion, steals the round. After that, Esparza got stuffed in every other takedown. She couldn't get Waterson down in 2 or 3. And Waterson looked so clean, so tight, so technical in the first round. In the second and third round, Esparza is now resorted to just marching forward and clubbing her. And wouldn't you know it, Paul? Esparza outstrikes her 15-13 in round 2, and then outstrikes her 25-23. Sloppy striking, but just marches us on forward.
Stays busier.
And that's kind of the problem with Michelle Waterson. This goes back to her losing the Invicta Atomweight title. This goes back to some of her performances in the UFC. Maybe if you look at some of those prior fights, is that she starts off good, and then the longer the fight goes, it kind of falls off a little bit. She's not totally old, 32 years old, but again, she's a mother. She's a very technical fighter. So I think once the fight starts to get gritty and dirty, the longer it prolongs, not great. In a 3-round fight, not only do I think she can maybe outstrike Angela Hill for that first round, maybe just be more evasive, but she can also take Angela Hill down.
Mm-hmm.
But because this is now a 5-round fight, I now have to think, geez, Angela Hill's got more output, and I'm thinking better cardio. Now, Angela Hill hasn't really been able to show us that 5-round cardio because she hasn't been booked in these 5-round spots. Whereas at least with Waterson, she went 5 rounds with Jacek. We know she can go 5 rounds. It just gets less competitive for her as time goes. So the flip side to Angela Hill, she's 35 years old. Not a great sign for someone in their first 5-round opportunity. But the Claudia Gadelha fight, the first round, Claudia takes her down. She makes Claudia work. When she does get taken down, she gets back up. The second round, she starts to put it on Claudia. Yeah. The third round, she's got Claudia cooked. Claudia is busted open. She's bleeding. And Angela Hill's just putting it on her. That round ends.
Most people scored it for Hill.
Most people score for Hill. Very close fight. And Claudia Gadelha gets a split. Yeah, you and I were on Claudia Gadelha, especially me. I am sitting at home. Ooh, how many times have I gotten a bum decision and I just got one going my way? But the reality was that Angie looked good and Angie looked better as the fight was progressing. And so now you got a fight booked where Angela Hill just competes all the time. So she's really in her element. I mean, she's fought in a lot in the UFC. When she made her pro debut, Waterson was already the Invicta champion, right? Waterson was like 1 year removed from her UFC debut when Angela Hill made her debut. But Angela Hill's just fought so much in that meantime that she's really established herself in the division. And honestly, I think she probably first round very competitive, second round competitive, third round competitive. But after 3 rounds, I got the sense at the very least it's 2-1 Waterson. And then 4 and 5 Hill comes through. I feel like you. Don't really want it. I don't really want to bet it. I see better spots in this card.
I mean, there's
spots
12 options, so I'm like, this is one of the fights that I've been like, I don't think I have to really get too involved in this.
But I think you take Angela Hill, and then I think furthermore, you take Angela Hill by decision.
Yeah.
Joanna and Jacek hit her 180 times over the course of 5, so I don't know that Angela Hill takes her out. And I think if Waterson wins, it's going to be a lot of taking her down, succeeding in taking her down. Maybe the way she took down Courtney Casey or something. But anyway, succeed with the takedowns, hold her down. Again, you would have fight go the distance. So fight goes the distance, you're not going to get a great number.
No,
on.
I don't think you're going to get a good number on the.
But if you're taking Angela Hill, I think you take Angela Hill by decision. If you're taking Michelle Waterson, it's not as quite as straightforward because Michelle Waterson could submit Angela Hill theoretically.
Yeah,
she is the better grappler. It's just I don't know that with 1 or 2 takedowns it's going to be enough. You're going to have to take her down 4 or 5 times, and that's where Waterson's going to mightily struggle. She's not one to complete multiple takedowns in a fight. I don't think so. The pick is Angela Hill. The pick is Angela Hill by decision. Don't feel super confident about it, but it's lined pretty correctly.
Yeah, I see plus 125 out there, Hill by decision. I like it better than the minus 125 or minus 135 because I
turn a slight favorite into a slight dog.
Yeah. I like where your head's at on that. Let's move on to the next one. We have Kamaworthy taking on Utman Azaitar. Kamaworthy minus 135 favorite. Azaitar is plus 110. I mean, Kamaworthy's been a massive underdog, both of the spots that he came in. Came through. The guy looks pretty solid. He's obviously been a reliable training partner of some guys that have gotten more. Like Jalen Turner comes to mind, of course.
Yeah, he's earned his way to the UFC. He's fought lots on the regional scene.
You go through the guy's record, and the guys that he's losing to, all former UFC fighters. Now, are they great UFC fighters? Or
well.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul Felder once upon a time.
Paul Felder was, I believe, his second professional fight, and Felder knocked him out early on. We haven't seen that chin get checked completely at the UFC level here. He's only been in here for 2 fights. Ottman Azaitar, I wanted to like him, but I'm not going to lie, man. He reminds me of like a real poor man's John Lineker. He's just throwing bombs. I don't think this guy has any sort of ground game. He seems to be actively avoiding it. He's 5'8", short reach. He's going to be throwing bombs. We have seen Kamaworthy in the past. You know, a big bomb can take this guy out. What was his last loss? Was the most recent one that I watched.
Pretty much all of his losses, yeah.
He lost in a minute.
Kyle Nelson.
To who?
Kyle Nelson, who will
to
talk
Kyle
about,
Nelson. Yes, exactly. Who is a guy who comes
at 145 pounds,
who comes hot out of the cannon, tries to knock you out, and if that doesn't work out, he usually fades off a little bit later. It worked out for Kyle Nelson that night. It could work out for Ottman Azaitar here. I don't really love Azaitar, but what he does do, and he can do it until round 3. Watched a bunch of his fights. Even into round 3, the guy's still just throwing clubs. So I think Kamaworthy is the better on the ground, has the longer reach, more technical striking, all of that. The only thing we're kind of fading here is the power of Azaitar. Pick is worthy. Haven't made a bet on it. What's your take on this fight?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm looking for a little bit of an underdog play here on Ottman Azaitar at plus 110. Not a great underdog price, obviously, but yeah, he just throws such heat that a part of me really thinks that he's going to catch Kamaworthy. Now, that's been the narrative on Kamaworthy since the day he signed to the UFC. Technically speaking, we didn't have a bet on that first underdog hit because it was Devontae Smith versus our boy Clay Collard, and the fight got scrapped real late. In comes Kamaworthy.
They robbed us of the Collard.
Yeah,
that would have been a Collard like plus 300, plus 400. We would have been on it.
Yeah, and it's Kamaworthy like plus 650 or 550. Like it was a massive underdog price.
Absurd.
And so the cool little narrative there, though, for Kamaworthy is that him and Devontae Smith were training partners, former training partners, right? So Devontae Smith kind of looked a tad gun shy, and it was a bad move. Kamaworthy was like, "Fuck this, I'm in the UFC now," and knocked him out. Nice knockout. Comes in as less of a favorite, but still like plus 250 against Luis Pena. And there's where Luis Pena doesn't really have any punching power. Luis Pena, not one for knocking out opponents. So whereas the narrative on Kamaworthy is that of his 5 pro losses, he's been knocked out 4 times. Those 4 knockouts in the first round, or one in the second round to Billy Quarantillo, who we'll also talk about. But yeah, just like 20 seconds into the round, like he gets hit, he goes down. The 2 fights in the UFC, you have Devontae Smith, who is a heavy hitter, but didn't quite let go on him. Mm-hmm. And then you have Luis Pena, who he tried to grapple a little bit. He tried to dink around a little bit. Wasn't a great game.
Here's a take I have on Luis Pena before we move on from him, because we don't really have to be mentioning him. I watched that fight between the 2 of them as well. Luis Pena was just like, had him wrapped up in a pretzel, had every single submission he could possibly have wanted. The guy's just not, like, the guy should actually, I think the guy would maybe be better if he like went up to welterweight and put on some mass. Put on some strength. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if that's possible for his frame, for his metabolism, all of that stuff. But it just looked like he had him in all the positions. He just didn't have enough strength to finish the show.
So if you actually remember his fight right before that was against Steve Garcia, and he's on Steve Garcia's back for like two and a half rounds. He's literally on Garcia's back the entire fight, and he cannot choke him out. Not only can he not choke him out, he can get no meaningful ground and pound from the backpack position. And by the end of the fight, Steve Garcia is quite literally just punching him in the face. It's almost like you want to score the round for Steve Garcia, despite the fact that Luis Pena's been on his back the entire round. So going into the Kamaworthy fight, he got him. He got his back. And the same thing, he couldn't choke him out, and he couldn't do any meaningful ground and pound. And I think he remembered everyone booing that Steve Garcia fight and then going the distance and people talking shit and being like, blah, blah, blah. So he abandoned it for a more fan-friendly approach, which is strike with this guy. He showed up to the gunfight, within his guns go pow pow, and Kamaworthy's guns go boom boom, and he just couldn't get his respect. As he's not getting his respect, Kamaworthy's getting confident, and even though Worthy's starting to get tired, the confidence is just leading him through because he knows he's about to win this fight, and then he eventually ends up submitting Luis Pena. So it's a good win for him, another underdog spot. But you get him as a big fat underdog, nice, and you get him as a plus 250, nice underdog, nice. Now you're getting him as the favorite against another guy who goes boom boom. And Ottman Azaitar, he throws caution to the wind, but one thing I'll give him is you watch anything from the German regional scene, just kind of where he was competing prior to coming to the U.S., and he's wild, man. Like, he just throws
He's
very
just throwing
wild,
overhand rights. Everything is 100% power.
Yeah, that version of him, could he catch Kamaworthy? Yeah, absolutely. Kamaworthy, as we mentioned, had been knocked out a bunch of times, and yes, it's future guys like Paul Felder, right, made it to the UFC. Billy Quarantillo, 10 seconds into round 2, but made the UFC, also on this card. Matt Bissett, midway through the second round, but also made the UFC. There's 3 guys that all made the UFC. But this Anthony Redditch, he's a 5-3 journeyman. He knocks him out 1 minute and 6 seconds. All those losses are at featherweight, 145. The Kyle Nelson fight, which was in Burlington, I was at the show, right? He knocks him out 1 minute and 3 seconds. And dude, a nasty knockout.
Yeah.
At 145 pounds. So he had reinvented himself since then. He's gone up to 55. He seemingly can take a better shot at 155 as well. Maybe it was an issue with the weight cut, who knows. But at 33 years old, I feel like he's got to be on the back, even though he's fighting as good as he's ever fought. Physically, he's at his prime, or if not on the back 9 of his prime. So I don't think that there's going to be a ton of improvement there. Whereas when I look at Otman Azaitar, as I mentioned, on the German and regional scene, just swinging bombs. Could he catch him at that level? Yeah, could catch him. But coming to the UFC, he fights Teemu Packalén, and yeah, not a great fight, but you just saw he seemed a lot tighter. He seemed a lot more technical. And this is a guy, him and his brother, Abu Azaitar, who also fights in the UFC. He's also one in the UFC. He fought for PFL as well. But they're both like friends with the King of Morocco, and they have a lot of funding down there, and there's a lot of hype behind them. And Otman Azaitar got booked against Kamaworthy. And what happened was visa issue, because the virus happens, so they scrap it, and they book Kamaworthy versus Michael Johnson. And then that fight, due to the virus, also gets scrapped, and Kamaworthy gets booked against Luis Pena. They give Otman Azaitar right back the fight he wanted. They saw something in the matchmaking. I think they feel like they can build this guy. Morocco, a lot of support behind him, a lot of money behind him. Why can't this guy build into a star if you give him some proper matchmaking where he goes and just adds to his highlight reel? Kamaworthy, talented opponent, good opponent. The kind of guy you could build a highlight reel against. Why? Because all those guys that we named that made it to the UFC had Kamaworthy on their highlight reel going to the UFC, right?
Fair.
So Otman Azaitar could definitely build. Anyways, he's dog money. I think if he does win, he's going to win by knockout. But again, because he's dog money, you could just take him straight up in that. 7,700 on DraftKings. We'll get to that at the end of the show. But yeah, the flip side of this guy is he goes and gets you a first round knockout. But he looked more technically sound in his UFC debut. Now he gets a year off. I feel like if he kept getting better, you check him on Instagram, wicked shape. This guy's shredded to the tits. Comes in good shape, comes in more technical, makes those improvements. Abu Azaitar is also getting ready for a fight, I think, in a few weeks. So let's say they've both been trained together. They're both hyped, motivated, and he comes in good shape. He's definitely a live dog to score that first round knockout. Now, the one problem is that Otman, because he's coming off a layoff and because he knocked out Teemu Packalén early in the first round, he hasn't been extended to these second and third rounds in a long time. And that's the one area where Kamaworthy could be a definite problem. Second and third round, just like Luis Pena.
He could be a big problem too.
In the first round, it's going to be hard for Kamaworthy to take him down. His wrestling's just not quite good enough. But once Otman Azaitar starts to get tired and starts to get reckless and wild, then he could take him down. So what I'm saying is, even if you do like Kamaworthy, live bet it after the first round.
Yeah.
Otman Azaitar might just put it on the first round. But if you see, or you get the impression he's starting to get tired, and Kamaworthy's taking his best shots, chin's not an issue, he's not knocked out by the end of the first, you'll get a better price than the minus 135 on him because he dropped the first round.
Yeah.
And then he would be considered a live dog going after the first. My impression is Otman Azaitar does knock him out in the first round. But if he doesn't, at least that's a live bet situation. But anyways, yeah, the pick would be slight dog play on Azaitar.
Otman's plus 185 inside the distance that I see right now around the markets. By knockout, when that gets released, could be even better. You could be looking at a plus 200. I think that's how he wins if he does.
Kalman can grapple, so I would assume the knockout would be
100%. Let's go. Let's move on. This next one's pretty interesting, I think. We got Angela Lee minus 300 favorite against Roxanne Modafferi, who could be had for plus 230. All these lines are at DraftKings Sportsbook. Angela, I looked at it, and people hate betting Roxanne Modafferi. We've kind of jumped on board a few times, and she's always undervalued in the market. Watching some tape on Angela Lee, she just kind of always even though she should, in this fight, be able to just hang out at range. She's got spinning kicks. She could do a whole bunch more on the feet. Like, Roxanne is very, very limited, very forward, walking forward, eats a whole ton of shots. I expect her to lose on the feet, but I expect her to basically charge through because I don't see very much power coming back from Angela Lee. I see Roxy just kind of eating it, rushing forward, getting this up against the fence. And if Roxy gets this to the ground, I think she has a pretty big advantage down there. It's crazy, but I'm considering betting Roxanne Modafferi here. What do you think about that?
So, every time I say I wouldn't mind potentially betting her because of the great value, but there's just something about it that I can't, because the facts are the facts, and I challenge anybody to call me out on this one, but she's the worst athlete in the UFC history.
She's the hardest worker
of
though.
UFC modern. Oh yeah, hey dude, and
She has
and
no
a fan favorite.
athletic in terms of her athletic build.
She just
had
makes
no.
up.
She has
Oh,
no
yeah.
business being a professional athlete. But
Right,
she's
right.
gotten here, I think, full out on just her grit.
Her work ethic, her grit, and her sheer experience. I mean, she once upon a time went on a 6-fight losing streak back in the regionals, but it didn't matter because she just fought all the time. She fought Smack Girl in Japan. She fought Strikeforce. She fought, obviously, was on the Ultimate Fighter. And someone just, even on the Ultimate Fighter, it's like, it's laughable. Oh my God, Roxanne Modafferi on the Ultimate Fighter. No way she does good. She gives a good account of herself. Now she comes to the UFC, and because of the Nico Montana, all that bullshit, she ends up getting a title fight. But she gave an okay account of herself. You know, she went some rounds. Now she has fought some top contenders in the UFC, and again, same thing. Who would have thunk the Macy Barber fight? But of all of that, it just seems like sheer good luck, because if she doesn't get this fight to the ground, she just can't strike, man. She can't strike for a prolonged period of time. I mean, she throws up the jab, she throws up that dinky head kick, but she's just there to be hit, and she has absolutely no power stance.
Here's the problem with Lee though.
Yeah,
Against Laura Murphy. I watched that fight. I rewatched that fight just last night, and Lee tries to go for this hip toss against Laura Murphy. Laura Murphy's way stronger than you. That is where Laura Murphy is going to win this fight. I think she gets.
I think you underestimate Lauren Murphy though. Like she and look at her
they
versus
both fought.
Roxanne.
They both.
It's just, she's very strong.
Exactly.
Very, very strong girl.
Well, I'm saying
Lauren
what Angela Lee gets kind of like overwhelmed in the moment and just like, oh, we're really close. Let's grapple. And like she loses position. She tries to do the hip toss, gets her down, but then gets reversed immediately and spends the rest of that round with her back against the fence. Now, she probably should have won that decision.
It was a close fight, but
it was
yeah,
it was a close
lot
fight.
Of people feel she
Most
should have.
people scored it for Lee. I think it was razor close. Roxanne versus Murphy wasn't really a question. It was very clear who won the fight there. I'm just saying, at the prices that are out there, Roxanne over plus 300, and it's moving across markets. I think this is going to get bigger as the week goes on. I think she wins 35% of the time. 65-35.
I don't know.
I do.
Okay.
I don't know, but I'm not on board with jamming money at a minus 300 or up. Angela Lee. That's just me.
Yeah, so Andrea Lee, I don't, because Angela Lee's the one FC veteran, badass chick. Was in that car accident that was never quite the same. But we're talking about Andrea Lee.
Andrea Lee, sorry, my bad.
No, I know. I says it, but that's
right there on the board.
But
it's there on the board.
Oh, it is Andrea on the board. Yeah, no, I mean, hey, listen, Angela Lee's a total badass. Fights in one FC. But
I'm
again,
finding
that
all
car
my
accident
stats
thing
at a
got
different
wrong.
thing. So I don't know. Long story short, we're good.
It's totally good, man. All I'm saying is, yeah, no, minus 300, not a price tag you would like. Do you want it now by Lee by decision? If you are going to take it, better. But I don't know. I think if you are going to take it as a parlay piece, and that makes it a little bit risque. But I mean, this is a rematch from a fight that happened in 2014 for Invicta. So Andrea Lee fights Roxanne Modafferi once upon a time ago, 2014. Now I remember that fight. Andrea Lee was 2-0, and Roxanne Modafferi was 16-11. In what world do you even book this fight, right? But it's a close fight, and the difference is Andrea Lee's she's a better striker. She's more physical. But my God, Roxanne Modafferi gets those takedowns. And Roxanne Modafferi has already beaten Andrea Lee, squeaks out a split decision on her. I remember thinking right then and there, man, this girl that was 2-0 is going to have a bright future. She can make a lot of improvements. This is her at the beginning of her career versus this is Roxanne Modafferi that's already been fighting professional for 9 years. This is Roxanne Modafferi that already has, almost 30 professional fights. Now they re-meet 6 years later. I mean, I still get those impressions. Roxanne Modafferi still is that savvy veteran. She still could win this fight based on those takedowns, but she's going to have to get multiple takedowns. And that's where I don't know that she's physically strong enough to get Lee down. Lee's made a lot of improvements since that fight in 2014. Now, Lauren Murphy wins the fight based on timely takedowns. But you see, Andrea Lee's tough girl, man. She's a cowboy. And her fighting Lauren Murphy's a lot like the rodeo was in town, and Andrea Lee hopped off the bus and then ran into the truck stop to get some beef jerky and ran into Lauren fucking Murphy, who was driving that 18-wheeler. And Lauren Murphy edged her out in a good fight that would have gone viral. Now, Roxanne Modafferi versus Lauren Murphy, it's more like somebody who's playing Pokemon Go, and then on their thing, it said that the truck stop happened to be one of those, like, Poke stops, so she went to the truck stop, got into an encounter with Lauren Murphy, and just got fucking beat up, right? Physicality made a big difference. Now, I get that Lauren Murphy is stronger than Andrea Lee, but Andrea Lee at least gave a good account of herself. She's physically strong. Now, one thing that kind of I overlooked, I had Lee, maybe a good part of me thought that she did beat Lauren Murphy, but one thing that I think I seriously overlooked is Andrea Lee's somebody that's trained her entire career in Louisiana versus with Karate Mafia. Her former ex-husband now, Donnie Clark, who spent time in jail for killing a man and also was obviously infamous for all those Nazi tattoos, piece of shit, then also fucking domestically assaults her and then dips town on a bail. That's a huge part of her life that's like, whoa, what the fuck? And now she's trying to train for training camps, and she doesn't quite look as good. She's now left Louisiana. She's gone to Aspen Lads Camp. I know Lads currently laid up with a bum knee. But all the same, it seems like she's in a good place mentally, and maybe that's just like the little edge she needs. So now going back just to the pure numbers, right? With Roxanne Modafferi, last 3 fights we'll talk about is the Jennifer Maia fight. In the Jennifer Maia fight, she's just not physically strong enough to get down Jennifer Maia. As a result, she soundly outstruck 83-29, right? The striking is just not there. Maia, shoot to box, striker, come forward strong, get it. Okay, understandable. The fight with Macy Barber, despite Barber fighting off one knee, right? Roxanne Modafferi only got that first takedown and landed 19 significant strikes over the course of 3 rounds, mostly just dominating the entire time. Yeah. 19 significant strikes. Still just no output out of her. And then the last fight with Lauren Murphy, again, soundly outstruck 72-44. You watch the fight, output, just not there. She has to rely on getting that takedown. And unless you blow out your knee and she just tosses you with one that you don't see coming, I don't fully see it. Also, Macy Barber, very young, very green. Andrea Lee's been fighting professional for 7 years now. She's fought in the UFC many times now. She's had fights go the distance. She's had, so I'll admit though, she's kind of lacks finishing ability, and I don't know that she puts away Roxanne Modafferi. So I think if you try to improve the price, you would go Andrea Lee by decision to just try to get better than -300. But I could see if Modafferi doesn't get the fight to the ground, and I think she's going to struggle to, she could definitely just get pieced up standing by Lee. So the picks Lee, -300, don't love, but if it's going to be a parlay piece, and it is what it is. And if I'm trying to improve it singular straight up, then I would take Lee by decision.
I mean, if they end up on your parlays, I'm going to play it, but I'm not going to be happy about it, Cody. Let's move
turn
on.
on the red light, Paul.
I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling Lee. I don't. You talked me off of the Roxy cliff, at least for now. Who knows what happens Saturday morning? Roxanne seems like she was built for quarantine. We got Mike Rodriguez taking on Ed Herman. Mike Rodriguez -265 favorite. Ed Herman +205. I mean, I remember who was Herman was supposed to fight Gerald Mearshart. Not that long
Herman,
ago.
yeah, good move on Herman.
And honestly, I went back and watched Herman's last fight. The guy looks just so clanky. I mean, maybe
he's looked like that for 5 years.
He's looked like that for a long time. The way he wins this fight is if he gets this fight into round 3. Mike Rodriguez is gassed, but like Mike Rodriguez definitely has 2-round gas tank, at least that. Round 3, in that most recent loss of his, he struggled a little bit round 3, obviously, but that was against John Allen, right? Round 3 was definitely riding the struggle bus a little bit, but he should absolutely cruise. Like, if he can just keep this on the feet. And Ed Herman's slow, clanky, his striking is, I mean, he knocked out Patrick Cummins, but everybody knocks out Patrick Cummins.
Yeah, that's true.
Rodriguez should absolutely style on him at this price. I see the line is moving basically across the industry right now. And I agree with the line movement. I think Mike Rodriguez should be able to absolutely piece up Ed Herman in this spot. What about you?
Yeah, so...
I got a comment here.
What?
Do you remember that game, Guess Who?
Yeah.
Ed Herman has Guess Who face.
He kind of does.
In this case, you could actually just win the game by being like, does your guy look Irish? And then, bam, Ed Herman, the only guy left. Does it look like he's got a sunglassed hand in that picture? My boy Ed Herman has been through the motherfucking ringer, boy. I mean, 38 professional fights. He was on tough. He was just, this guy's been fighting at the highest level for a very long time. But yeah, his once decent athletic ability is like pretty much vanished at this point. His best days were at 185 pounds, where he was strong and his wrestling was actually pretty adequate. Team Quest Portland kind of guy. Eventually got awarded as a BJJ black belt, and then he added that shuffle hook to his game. He added the uppercut to his game. He added the single collar tie, and now he just really wants to wear on guys if he can. He was a grinder at the beginning of his career. He's fallen into the grinder category now late in his career. The difference is the game's just changed so goddamn much. Nowadays, you got to compete with even a guy who's is considered lower mid-level, and Mike Rodriguez. He's 6'4", and has big power and is just a lot more dynamic, a lot faster. So how does Ed Herman defeat him? He needs to slow him down. He needs to get takedowns. He needs to get this later. Now, as you talked about, Rodriguez has suspect gas tank. Sure, fair enough. But like Ed Herman has suspect gas tank. Once upon a time he was a grinder, he could go, but that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, he was able to exploit Hadis Ibragimov, but that's because Hadis
would
comes
like to
out
talk about
comes
that,
out
yes,
way too hot
yes,
every single fight and then gasses out. That's how Ed Herman just being able to outlast him is how he won that fight.
Okay, so yeah, when you look at Herman, it's like, oh, geez, he's actually won his last 2 fights. But the Cummins fight, it's like, oh, he hit him, and that's quite simply, we're playing punchy-kicky. We're going to hit him at some point. Cummins just couldn't take the punch anymore. So he knocks out Cummins, and we got to give him some credit for that, but at least with a grain of salt. It's the Cody Saftic fight that's even more important. Because you see Cody Saftic 0-3 in the UFC. And you see Cody Saftic having given a good account of himself in those 3 UFC fights. The Da Ung Jung fight, he goes out just like a madman in the first round and then completely fades to smithereens and loses and looks like a fool, right? His last fight in the UFC, which will be, I would believe, his last one, against Roman Dolitz, just looks absolutely pitiful and gets knocked out in the first round. His fight with Ed Herman was competitive, at least. He went 3 rounds. He took Ed Herman down twice. The striking numbers weren't too bad. He lost the fight. Ed Herman did win the fight. But Caddis is awful. And at least versus Herman, it seemed like, yeah, he's in it, kind of. He could do something. Whereas like the other guys, and we're talking about Da Ung Jung and Roman Dolitz, smoked him out. So with Herman, one has to definitely imagine it's like, okay, those 2 wins, maybe not great. Now he takes a year-long layoff because, he knocks out, or he beats Cody Saftic almost a year ago. And then this is hilarious. Supposed to fight Da Ung Jung, right? Man, event canceled due to coronavirus. 3 months later, book it again. Da Ung Jung withdrew. Short notice replacement comes in. Jeremy Shart tests positive for COVID. Rebook it 1 month later. Jeremy Shart pulls out.
Pulls out to be scheduled against Chimaev.
Rebook a short notice replacement. John Allen takes the fight. John Allen bails out. Kevin Holland steps up to the plate and says he'll take it. Ed Herman's like, I already drank 2 margaritas. I can't fight Kevin Holland. Hilarious. So
is that actually what he said?
Yeah. Fuck yeah. He said on poolside I had 2 margaritas. So yeah. Anyways, he got his show money, I believe, or he said he didn't even get his whole show money. He said he got about half of it, but he's got some decent show money, so whatever. And then they book him against Mike Rodriguez. More winnable fight for him, considering Mike Rodriguez fought Da Ung Jung and just got clubbed over in the first round. Last fight against Marcin Prachnio. Prachnio is just awful, kind of runs into it, and then he smacks him with the hook.
The Da Ung Jung versus Rodriguez, that just felt like a knockout that he just got caught. Like it was,
but Herman
he was
theoretically
blocking it, and like that hand just like slipped right underneath the guard, like caught him right on the button. These things happen in MMA.
But when he fought John Allen, it's like, oh man, his striking looks good, but John Allen just keeps taking him down. But John Allen tests positive for steroids after the fight. Yep. So Rodriguez was starting to tire, and Allen was just taking him down, and his cardio looked fresh. But at least there's an excuse there, right? The Da Ung Jung fight, he just gets caught. The Prachnio fight, he looks better, right? But it's only 3 minutes in the first round.
Talking about a worst guy in the UFC.
Yeah, fair enough.
Prachnio kind of flew under the radar.
But the main difference, I would say anyways, is that you got Mike Rodriguez here, 6'4", rangy, just figuring it out. He fought like 9 times for CES in the span of like 16 months. Likes to fight a lot. Now he's starting to get into a rhythm. He's starting to fight more, right? He's starting to get comfortable in there. And he's only 31 years old. Improvements are there to be made. Herman is 4 weeks shy of his 40th birthday. So it's just, he's at the tail end. Now, the last stat I want to make, and then we can move on from this fight, is if Ed Herman's going to win this fight, I would think, just like you're thinking as well, take it into deep waters, take this guy down, grind this guy, beat him up, and control him. You are the better wrestler. You probably, with your BJJ black belt, probably are the better grappler. You got to take him down. The problem with that is Herman just doesn't have the cardio to wrestle consistently. And to that effect, Ed Herman, the last time he scored 1 single takedown in the UFC, right, was 3 years ago. The last time he completed more than 1 single takedown in a fight in the UFC was 7 years ago. The last time he completed more than 2 takedowns in the UFC is 11 years ago. So the Mike Rodriguez thing, Mike Rodriguez got taken down 7 times versus Devin Clark, but he got up every time. Devin Clark way faster, probably at this point better wrestler than Ed Herman. The John Allen fight, he was taken down 4 times. Got up every time, made him work, got up every time. John Allen's on the juice. You got to take Mike Rodriguez down 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, because he gets back up. Ed Herman does not complete more than 1, maybe 6 years ago, 2 takedowns in a fight. So even if Herman does get the fight, Rodriguez gets back up. As far as the striking goes, Rodriguez throws 2-3 times the amount, stays at the outside, way rangier, longer reach.
He's got like a 7.5-inch reach advantage.
Yeah, and I just think put it to him. So I had Rodriguez against Pacquiao, but my worry was maybe he can't take a punch, and he was like a 235 favorite in that spot. Now you're getting a much better price at minus 135. Money's coming in.
No,
on
that's
him.
not the price, Cody.
Sorry, yeah, that makes no. I didn't think it was the case, but
minus 265 plus 205.
okay, yeah, obviously, makes a lot more sense. So Mike Rodriguez, big favorite. Does he take out Ed Herman? Ed Herman hasn't been knocked out in 5 years. Ed Herman's got a lot of durability. But the way Rodriguez fights is kind of like he puts it on you or you put it on him. So I'm a little weary of this one. I'd have Rodriguez. 260 seems like a lot. As far as a parlay piece, it does have that risk written on it. I just can't, I can't get behind Roxanne Modafferi at this stage. I just can't get behind Ed Herman at this stage. Could he pull one out? Sure, it's MMA. Anything can happen. But he's got a lot of factors going against him here, and I think Rodriguez is there to capitalize. So sign me up for some slow Mike, who's going to look like fast Mike compared to slow Ed.
100%. All right, we got Billy Quarantillo taking on Kyle Nelson. Quarantillo minus 250, Nelson plus 195. I'll let you start this one up. I've got takes on this one, but see where your head's at.
Straight
first.
up, I almost blind bet Billy Quarantillo when the fight got announced because Billy, my boy, you know that. Billy been good to us ever since he cashed as a plus 185 dog in the Contender Series and then comes to the UFC. And I mean, since then, the Jacob Kilburn fight, whatever. I mean, he was going to get the win in that one. But it just, as far as the DraftKings play that night, whoa, this guy puts it on. Cardio seems to be there. Wrestling, not great. Striking, not great. Jiu-jitsu looks pretty solid. It's just he doesn't stop, so he puts it together. Like striking, not great, but once you're tired and he's throwing just so much more on you in your face, now his striking looks good. Wrestling, just not that good.
No, he kind of tries to grab a hold of you and like pull you down. Like he doesn't shoot for like traditional takedowns. He'll try to like spin to your back and like jump on there and try to weasel you to the ground that way.
Yeah, but you know what? He's come through for us. He always gives you 100% of an effort. And we talked about it on the show all the time, a guy that'll fight for your money. Billy Q fights for your money. He gets after it. You got to give him props for that. Again, I'd like to blindly bet him in the spot as soon as announced because Kyle Nelson got mixed feelings about him. I mean, very strong guy. But geez, Billy's my guy. But the more you do research it, it does have the feel of like a just be careful ever so slightly, Billy 250. Kyle Nelson's really strong, and that's kind of the one area that Billy kind of lacks. I mean, the Spike Carlisle fight, he's stronger than Kyle Nelson, but it's like that strength and that physicality goes a long way, right?
And he almost won. Spike almost won that. He came out shooting out of a cannon, super fast, gassed a bit.
Definitely almost.
I rewatched that fight, and I had money on Billy when it happened, and I was pretty convinced that Billy won. Rewatching it last night, it was like I feel pretty fortunate to get the decision. I think it was razor close. It could have won either way.
I completely agree. You know what might have won the fight for Billy? Could be. But you know what might have won the fight? Was Spike just inexplicably getting off him in the second round, turning away. Billy getting up and smacking him in the side of the head.
Yeah.
Because that was a close round. And it was a good shot. And then all of a sudden, he gets the split decision. I'm pumped. Billy's pumped. He's all, I knew I won that one. But it's like, come on. Part of you must have thought, like, I don't know what they're looking at. He kept taking Spike's back, and Billy loves to take the back. And Spike would just maneuver out every single time. I don't think Kyle Nelson is going to do that. So when Billy gets his back, it's going to be different. I think to get a better price on Billy is you look for Billy second round. You look to live bet Billy after the first round. So where I'm going with this is that Kyle Nelson is a fast starter, right? Guy's striking has actually come a long way. He's a Crew Lin guy out of Iron Tiger Muay Thai out in Stony Creek. And yeah, he's come a long way with his striking. He's fought professional in kickboxing for Infusion. And you just kind of see in the UFC, you know, it's a work in progress, but he puts in time with Will Romero, Dennis Pirich, a lot of high-level strikers in the area. But he's putting in the time. It's getting better. But he's got that freakish farm boy strength. If he gets a hold of you, he can really power you around. The problem is he's got kind of trouble putting it all together. And he's got trouble lasting, building that, pushing it through later rounds. So again, you look at his UFC debut against Diego Ferreira. Ooh, talk about late notice fight. Bad matchup.
He puts it on him in the first couple minutes.
Dude,
that's the general trend for all of his fights.
You're right. He puts it. Now, he takes that fight out at 145. It's on short notice. And he's taking on a third-degree jiu-jitsu black belt in Cesar Ferreira, who is a better striker than him and is way better grappler than him and has decent cardio, is the natural 55er. It's just like, oh, man, this is going to be a tough spot for him. And in the first round, he hurts him to the body, and he comes out strong. It's very excusable to understand that he gassed out after the first round. Up a weight class, short notice, UFC debut. You can give him all the excuses in the world, no problem. Against Matt Sales, he will definitely give us a better account of himself. Full training camp, natural weight class 145, perfect. The Matt Sales fight, right?
I watched that one last night.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first round, Matt Sales just absolutely styles on him. He's a better striker, and he outstrikes him in the first round 54-14. Non-competitive, Sales just beats his ass. In the second round, Kyle Nelson gets the takedown. That's what allows Kyle Nelson to win the second round. He takes him down, he takes his back, he almost chokes him out with a rear naked choke.
But it gassed the fuck out of him.
But it gasses the fuck out of him.
He's in his corner going into round 3.
Shot.
Crew LN is going, let's go get that takedown again. And I was kind of looking, like watching, when you know the result, obviously, already. But it's like you're watching and you're just like, I don't know if it's a good idea for... I mean, that he looked really, really tired on the feet. But it's not a great... Like, he didn't have... I guess the plan was take him down and literally just sit in guard and hope to be able to hold
Which
him
is
down.
what he does. To that effect, he's got him down. He's got him in a bad spot, too, and he lands 5 significant strikes. He actually got outstruck 5-6 in the second round, despite all the control. But it's the third round. The third round's gut check, baby.
Exactly.
It's 1-1. It's for everything to fight for. He didn't have that extra gear. Didn't have that cardio. Didn't come through. Now, for the record, Matt Sales, fantastic striker. And I like Sales. Can't fucking grapple for shot. Ita! Definitely the chink in his armor. It's definitely his kryptonite. Oh, and I think of Billy. Billy know how to grapple. Billy loves to fight off his back. He's got a nasty triangle choke. He's got a nasty armbar. He loves to scramble, and he just works. So all of Billy's fights, the Contender Series, UFC debut, last fight against Spark Carlisle, he gets off to a slow start. But Billy always keeps coming. Cal Nelson now, through those 2 fights in the UFC, slowing down. But the Polo Reyes fight, he knocks him out in like just over a minute. So you don't get to see what he would have looked like had round 2 or 3 came. And that's where Billy takes him. So I envision this fight being competitive the first round. Kyle Nelson comes in. Maybe he takes him down. Maybe he gives an okay account of himself striking. Billy, I guess, as we mentioned, not a great striker initially, but he's got to wear you out. It's when Billy wears Kyle Nelson out. That's when he'll come through.
Yep,
So
that'll be the
250
spot to
straight
jump
up.
in.
250 straight up. I'm going to bet it. I'm a Billy guy. Billy's my guy. I'll bet it. But the real move here would be to take Billy after first round. And then you might get closer to like a plus 115 or like a minus 135, minus 145, depending on that first round does go. But you would probably get a better price and you go Billy. Now, does Billy win by decision or inside the distance? I don't know because he has such a wild pace.
I wouldn't be surprised round 3.
He could submit him. He could put it on him.
Looks like Kyle Nelson's got 2 rounds of cardio.
Yeah,
Especially, and Billy puts on such a pace that... Yeah, you literally took the words right out of my mouth. So I did already parlay Brian Barberena and Quarantillo, 2 guys that fight for your money when they go out there. Earlier in the week, I have CLV on them, but when I was doing tape, I did it blind. And then when I was doing tape on Quarantillo, I said to myself, the best time to get into the all right. So you either the best time to get in on this is if Kyle Nelson comes out hot, like he usually does. You're going to get a way better price on Billy Quarantillo. And Kyle Nelson always comes out. If this is the situation, this is the apple pie. You smell that? If this is the apple pie shitter.
No, I smell.
Well, then you didn't end up on Quarantillo in the first place. Because Quarantillo probably is going to lose the first 2 minutes of this fight. That's usually what happens in Kyle Nelson fights. If Kyle Nelson puts him away, well, then your hands are clean. You didn't have any action on it. I already do.
No, greasy parlays.
I'm not cashing out now. Sure. I've got good prices on these guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, after watching tape, I'm like, yeah, know what? I'm probably going to be jamming more in on Billy around like the 2 minute and 30-second mark. Like once Billy gets that takedown. And we'll see where the price is at that, but I bet you it'll be better than the minus 250 that's getting offered around the market right now. I think that's about all we have to say about that.
Yeah.
We have Matt Schnell taking on Tyson Nam. Matt Schnell plus 100, Tyson Nam minus 125. Crazy disparity on DraftKings, which has it 8,600 for Schnell and 7,600 for Nam. What's your take here?
Yeah, this is a spot I could definitely get burned on because both guys have got the ability to win this fight. Matt Schnell with just a superior volume, a little bit faster, and just again he works a little bit more in there. Whereas Tyson Nam just relies too much on maybe I'll just catch this guy and knock him out. But if Tyson Nam catches you, he knocks you out. And Matt Schnell kind of struggles in that KO department. I'm leaning towards Tyson Nam, even though he's 36 years old. It does feel like he's starting to kind of fall into his rhythm and fight the best fights he's had. He's kind of been around the scene forever. I mean, he scores that massive knockout back in like 2012 against Eduardo Dantas. Then he knocks out Ali Bagatinov in like the waning seconds in Russia. Defeats a great Brazilian in Brazil. Defeats a great Russian in Russia. And then comes to the UFC. And he's never really fought his best fights in North America. Never really got going. But he comes to the UFC and they do him no favors. They give him Sergio Pettis right off the hop. He doesn't have the output to kickbox with Sergio Pettis. He doesn't even try to take him down. He's a Hawaiian, but he spent a lot of time in Portland, Oregon. This guy knows how to wrestle. Just doesn't even bother against Sergio Pettis. Is okay with just getting outstruck. So he does, and he loses a decision. The Kai Kara France fight, he doesn't look too bad. It's the problem is he just doesn't throw anything. So Kai Kara France outstrikes him, again, just throws more output, better workload, better pace, and defeats him by decision. At this point, it's like Tyson Nam, man. I mean, he doesn't let his hands go, and he is getting older. And then you get this Zaruk Adashev, who's coming in on like 2-3 days notice for Ryan Benoit. The fight only lasts 32 seconds. What can you really take away from that? Is that Tyson Nam got legit power. And Sergio Pettis has got a great chin on him. And Kai Kara France got a good chin on him. Adashev, you didn't really know, but that shot hits and it's boom. And that's the thing with Tyson Nam. He's got that power. Probably why he doesn't throw a whole lot is he relies on that power. Oh, it's in my back pocket. If he just does that in this Schnell fight, I don't know. I could see Schnell outworking him. The problem with Schnell is that he's just got a suspect chin. Now, this goes back to basically his entire career, right? He's got a win over Jonathan Martinez, who also fights in the UFC, and it's a DQ by a legal knee. But Martinez knocked him out with that knee. That's a KO loss that he gets a DQ win in before he comes to the UFC. Comes to the UFC, Rob Font knocks him out in the first round. But hey, it's Rob Font, no problem, right? Then Hector Sandoval knocks him out in the first round. That punch is a half punch, kind of hits him on the side of the head. He flops over. Now everybody and their mother is talking about Matt Schnell can't take a punch. That's kind of the knock on. Geez, guy can't take a punch. But he fights Marco Beltran. Competitive fight. Both guys do nothing. Schnell's worried about getting hit. Beltran doesn't throw anything. But hey, Matt Schnell gets the win over Marco Beltran and doesn't get knocked out. Then he gets Naoki Inoue. Not a power puncher in the slightest bit. And hustles up a split decision over him. Then the Luis Smolka fight, Jordan Espinoza fight. Quick submissions. Smolka hits him a few times, but Smolka not really a power puncher. But he just gets that quick triangle submission. It's the Pantoja fight. Now, Pantoja, difficult to submit. You can't just submit him in the first round. So if the fight does go to the ground, it does. Pantoja's on top. Schnell's just not a good enough grappler to catch him in a triangle. So now he's got to stand. And he's fast. And his striking looks like it's improving a lot. But the second Pantoja lands a good shot, side of the head, Schnell just straightforward, face down, bang, out. I get an impression a lot with Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam, not using his offensive wrestling, but his defensive wrestling pretty solid. Schnell's going to have struggle taking him down. So now Schnell's got to stand with him for the course of 15 minutes. And at some point, Nam's going to hit him. And Nam just carries a whole lot of power. Was knocking out dudes at 135. At 125, the guy hits hard. So I'll admit, this is a fight I probably would like to pass on, but I got the feeling that Tyson Nam's going to catch him. And then when you look at DK, like you're talking about that disparity, he's 7,600.
He's going to be chalk, though.
Yeah, Matt Schnell's lost 3 times in the UFC, all 3 times by first round knockout. I mean, I could absolutely see Tyson Nam catching him. Yet, did he catch Kai Kara France and Sergio Pettis? No. Are they top talents? Yes. Matt Schnell have that problem. And then the last thing I'm going to throw on, we can move away, probably spend too much time on this, is that Matt Schnell been at ATT for a long time. Started off in Louisiana, MTV caged. The dream was to follow Dustin Poirier to ATT. Does. Go to ATT. Makes those improvements. Wins fights. Gets better. Quarantine happens. Just had a new baby. Goes back to Louisiana. Now he's spending time in Louisiana and Texas, mostly Texas. He's actually been training at Fortis MMA the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
It just, what I'm saying is it's a move. It's a new child. You're leaving ATT. You're in Fortis. I think all of that will ever so slightly go against him, and that Tyson Nam just lines one up and hits him. So I'm going to go Nam. Don't feel great about it. It's obviously priced pretty accordingly. But yeah, that's the pick. I think he knocks Schnell out, catches him.
Julia Avila takes on Sajara Eubanks. Eubanks rebooked onto this card from last week's card. Who was she supposed to take on? There's so many cancellations, I kind of forgot off the top of my head.
Yes, on last week's card. No, I know what you're saying. Well, I mean, there's 12 fights on this. Did contenders last night.
Maybe I'm...
She was supposed to take on Rosa, right? Carol Rosa?
See the market's starting to move, and I kind of...
It was Macy Chase on, and then Carol Rosa, and then Fight Scrap moved this week.
I see the market kind of moving against Avila here, and I actually don't... We were all about Julia Avila. I had her in a parlay with Curtis Blades last time out. She was minus 400 when she opened against Gina Mazzani, but that was just a pure fade on Gina Mazzani. So Jara Eubanks' big issue is whether she's able to fight 3 rounds. That has always been the issue for her, but the skills are there. She's black belt in jiu-jitsu,
Yeah, good luck.
Has good striking. Like, it's all there. She just kind of slows down.
Yeah.
She slows down, and the price right now makes me a little bit nervous on Avila. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not quite at the spot where I would jump in on Eubanks. I'm wondering where your head's at.
Yeah, I got Julia Avila. I like Julia Avila, and I would say that to try to improve that 315, she will, again, probably be parlay material, but by decision. Because Sarge is super durable. She's super tough. I think when you're that strong and you just kind of muscle a lot of your techniques, she muscles her striking, she muscles a lot of her grappling, she muscles those wrestling takedowns, Eubanks just has trouble keeping up the pace and going multiple rounds. That's kind of always been the knock on her. And then fight to fight, never quite improves, right? So we talked about this as we were breaking down her versus Carol Rosa, is that she just falls off completely as the fight goes on, and Rosa just keeps going. Rosa just kind of gets better and keeps putting it on, right? So Rosa was the pick over Eubanks in that Eubanks would have a good first round, give an okay account of herself, but then would start to tire. When she does get the fight to the ground, good grappler, BJJ black belt, like you said, but the submissions don't materialize, It's mostly take you down and control your ass. Well, that's about it, right? There's not a whole lot of finishing coming off of that. So even if she does take Julia Avila down, she's going to have to consistently do it for the course of 15 minutes, and that's what I struggle with. Another problem with Sahara Eubanks is like she's Big Al, right? She's always had trouble cutting weight. Yes, she is up a weight class still, but you got to factor in that she cut weight to fight Carol Rosa. Carol Rosa bails out the day before the fight, and now this fight gets booked a week later, so you do put it back on, and now you take this fight with Julia Avila. Avila's not, meanwhile, coming on a week's notice. Everybody on Twitter right now is freaking out how Chaboy Kazmat Chimaev is booked to fight Gerald Mearshart and Damian Maia. Psh, psh. What's slapping Gerald Mearshart's face? How could you do that?
I mean, it should be easy work.
Book a guy for 2 fights. Have you ever seen a UFC fighter get booked for two fights back to back? No. Only Julia Avila is actually fighting 3 weeks after Sanjara Eubanks.
Is that still going on?
Against Nico Montano. I think it is only because Nico Montano, that fight was booked, right? It was booked to take place at in August 8th.
I mean, they've tried to book Montano like 7 times, and there's
right.
always something.
And for the record, Julia Avila already beat Nico Montano. This is a girl that made a professional debut in 2012, beating Mary Renault, who would go on to fight in the UFC at 135 pounds and give a good account of herself. She beat Nico Montano already back in 2017, a girl that went on to win a UFC title. A girl that went on to win a UFC title. Her only pro loss was a hand injury. I don't like that because it's like some fighters fight through it, but again, it's an injury. It wasn't like she got finished clean. She hurt her hand against Marcia Allen. That fight also, by the way, was at bantamweight, right? I mean, she's fought a lot of fights at 135 pounds. She's the natural bantamweight versus Azaitar Eubanks, who was strong at flyweight, big, strong, take you down, really control you, gas out you.
She's gonna make the weight.
At 135, she gives it up. Now we're talking about Eubanks, a little bit older, and just kind of has a tendency to gas. Versus Julia Avila. This girl ran track for Notre Dame, right? She's a D1 collegiate athlete. And you look at her fights. Let's not talk about the Gina Mazzani fight, which you can take no takeaways from, essentially. But look at that Penny Kianzad fight. Penny Kianzad's big, fought at 145. She dominates Penny Kianzad. Pillar to post, all 3 rounds, cardio checks out, strong, physical, beats her in the striking, beats her with the pace, hurts her, takes her down. Just a complete performance. Then they give her, they didn't mean to book Gina Mazzani, but they needed a short notice replacement, and Gina was local, and Gina was willing to step in and do the do. Gina's getting another fight in the UFC because of that, by the way. Does the UFC a favor, comes in, Avila wins. But again, Avila's got the look of like a legitimate fighter here for sure. And so I think that she does beat Eubanks after, again, similar to Billy versus Nelson. The most tightly contested round should be the first, where Eubanks will come in and, try to line her up with that big right hand, maybe try to clinch her and work her against the cage a little bit, maybe fish for a takedown. But as the second round goes and the third round goes, Avila's just going to use that size. Like, she's got the natural size. She's got the better output. She's got the better striking. And she's not a fish out of the water with her grappling whatsoever. She might be able to keep pace with Eubanks a little bit. So sign me up with Julia Avila, minus 315. Again, the fights on the card that you do like, they're all 3-1s. The fights on the card that you're like, oh, man, I don't know. They're all 50-50s. It is what it is. We're going to put a lot of these 3-1s on the same ticket. We're going to hope that the ones that shit in the apple pie are on those bottom end tickets. Avila, and again, we'll always keep tape studying all these fights. But as of right now, weigh-ins will also be key to seeing this. What's the size difference like at weigh-ins? How does Eubanks look at weigh-ins? How does Avila look at weigh-ins? All these different things would be important to take a note. But my pick would be Julia Avila by decision. And as far as the 9,400 on DK goes, I don't want no part of that, but we can talk about that later.
We have Roosevelt Roberts taking on the steamroller Frevola, minus 125 Roberts, plus 100 Frevola. Any hot takes here?
Yeah, so this is another one that's kind of got my intrigue for sure because I think it's the tale of two fights. I mean, Matt Frevola needs to get this fight to the ground. I just don't think he's really all that good as a striker. And flip side to that, I mean, he's dealing with a guy in Roosevelt Roberts who's really not that good of a striker as well. He's just a better striker. Roosevelt Roberts still only 26. Got no doubt about it. He's making improvements still. I just don't know at what clip he's making these improvements. He seems to struggle against guys that are just physically strong that try to fish those takedowns on him. So as far as his run in the UFC goes, he obviously gets the Contender Series contract, fights Daryl Horcher, nasty little guillotine. I've heard people talking about the fact that Matt Frevola sticks his head right out there for guillotines. But it's like, I don't know, guys. Is Roosevelt Roberts going to catch Matt Frevola with a guillotine? Like, I just don't fully know. Thomas Gifford, free win. Let's move on from that. It's a decision. But then it's Vince Pichel. Vince Pichel's big. He's strong. He wants to clinch you. He wants to wear you down. That's the key to being Roosevelt Roberts, as it shows. He beats him. Alexander Yakovlev, big, strong, wants to clinch you, wants to wear on you. Yakovlev wins the first round. Yakovlev wins the first 3.5 minutes of round 2, and then a botched takedown allows Roosevelt Roberts to mount him with like a minute and a half left, bombs on him, wins the second round, and then wins the third round, wins a decision. But he didn't look good. That grappling, that strong tenacity, that's a problem for him. Brock Weaver, not in the league, and we'll talk about Weaver later, but just like there's a nice light fight, matched up just like the Thomas Gifford fight for you, matched up just like the Garrett Gross fight once upon a time. You should be able to
matchup for you.
Yeah, and he goes out there and he beats Brock Weaver. That's fine. Now it's Jim Miller, and you and I are thinking, you know what? Jim Miller kind of fights similar to Vince Pichel. Big, strong, likes to wear on you a little bit.
No, except for Pichel actually has cardio.
But Pichel has cardio, and Pichel doesn't actually want to take you down. He actually just wants to hold you up against the cage and just maul you, you know? He does what Khabib does on the ground. Pichel just tries to do up against the cage. Very effective. Obviously, he's not Khabib, but it's how he wants to fight. But Miller's got an actual legitimate submission game that Pichel doesn't have. So when Miller gets him to the ground, he just subs him out. The problem here is now he gets Matt Frevola, who is an overachiever in the UFC. I mean, he gets rocked all over the place, but perseveres, and then he gets those takedowns. And as he gets those takedowns, he starts to work you. And the guy just doesn't seem to tire. It hasn't been a great run in the UFC for him as well when you consider knocked out by Polo Reyes in a minute flat in his debut. The fight with Lando Venata, the first round he wins. The second round he gets dropped twice. And is hurt. But the third round, despite getting dropped twice in the second, cardio's there, baby. Perseverance is there, baby. Will to win is there, baby. And he hustles up for a decision on the basis of the 10-8. The Jalen Turner fight, and this is going to be key here. The Jalen Turner fight, he perseveres. Jalen Turner, much better striker than Frevola. Frevola gets in that pocket, makes it a greasy fight, takes him down 4 times. Jalen Turner, 6'3". Luis Pena, he overcomes the deficiencies he has against Pena, clinches him up, takes him down 4 times, wins the decision over Pena. Pena, 6'3". So Roosevelt Roberts' biggest asset is that he's 6'2". He's rangy. Frevola has just defeated 2 guys that are both 6'3" respectively. He knows how to fight this game. He's got to get in there and he's got to get after those takedowns. The other thing is that he's been full-time at Matt Serra and Ray Longo's camp in New York for quite some time. He's a New York native. He's been spending a lot of time there. This camp, not there. And that is going to hurt him a little bit. Love that camp. Aljamain, Davashvili. Like, why would you not want to be there? But he's in Orlando with Billy Quarantillo. Same card. Both these guys cardio machines. And to be honest, they've worked a lot together in the past. So I honestly think that both of them are going to come in good shape, ready to go. Am I worried about Roosevelt Roberts, that size, that length? Well, fuck, you know what? Frevola actually just dealt with the same thing as the last 2 fights. Am I worried about, Roosevelt Roberts not being able to stuff the takedowns? I don't know. The guys that have been trying to take him down have been getting him down, and Frevola's shown a propensity to get those takedowns. And then the very last thing is Matt Frevola's chin not very good. Got knocked out by Polo Reyes, obviously that 1 minute, and then got dropped twice against Lando Venata. All that's important. Check this for his stat, right? Roosevelt Roberts has not knocked out an opponent since Tommy Aaron back in Bellator 2 years ago, and then prior to that in his second fight against Andrew Copia in 2017. 2 knockout wins on his record. Not a power puncher. Likes to stay on the outside, likes to drill you. Frevola's just got to make this ugly and work him and go for it. So I'm going to go with Matt the Steamroller Frevola, who is the technically speaking underdog, and he's the kind of underdog that is he fights for your dollar. Whereas Billy fights for your dollar, he's a minus 250. Matt's going to fight for your dollar. He comes through as underdog before. He gives a good account of himself, and I think he's got a lot of tricks to win this fight. So sign me up for the Steamroller Frevola plus 100.
We have Bobby Green taking on Alan Patrick. Bobby Green, a minus 240 favorite. Alan Patrick, plus 190. Is Bobby Green's like third fight during quarantine?
Bobby's perfect for quarantine because it's like
It's kind of crazy.
how
This
did you
guy
train to
was
begin
like,
with?
he was never around when it was like, convenient for everybody to get around. And he's always had his issues, a real character in the sport. But, I rewatched him versus Venata, and that was, he was winning clearly throughout the entire way. But, it was a very, very competitive fight.
Every single one of Bobby Green's fights, other than when Poirier starched him, they're all like that. He fights to your level.
Nugget hasn't fought in so long here.
Yeah.
Then went back, watched his last fight there. And the striking, these guys are worlds apart when it comes to the striking game. Nugget's throwing single shots, is strong. Bobby Green basically doesn't get submitted, has good takedown defense. I think Bobby Green absolutely should style on him here, but Bobby Green has the historical Bobby Green. I don't know if quarantine Bobby Green is any different. Bobby Green typically just fights the level of his competition. That has always been the problem within his career. Guy's super, super talented. Maybe quarantine's made him turn a corner here. Pick is Bobby Green. Haven't added it to anything yet. Wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah, to be honest, I got Bobby Green all day. Now, Alan Patrick was kind of fun 3 years ago when he seemed like a decent little prospect, perhaps, because he would come to the weigh-ins just jacked and do backflips and had this cool capoeira thing. And then would come in the UFC, reckless abandon with these takedowns. Now, was his blast double the most technical blast double you've ever seen? No. Was the sheer speed on the thing and just perfect entries on it? Yeah. And he used that to limited effect. I don't want to compare to him Bartos, who's got a different wrestling game, but he's very one-dimensional like Bartos in that he can only just get the takedowns. Him at his best, he beat Stevie Ray, he beat Damir Hadzovic. Hadzovic can't wrestle at all. He took Hadzovic down 9 times. That's him at his best. Multiple takedowns. Doesn't have great top control, can't really hold you down. These guys just work their way up. It's when he doesn't get the takedown, you get a great impression of like fish out of water. Now, once upon a time, Merabak Taysumov, I know, murderous power puncher, but once he went 0 for 7 on takedowns against Taysumov, it was like, oh, now I got to stand, and he gets knocked out. Mm-hmm. Now, his last fight 2 years ago, Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman, not really known for his wrestling, but the guy's big and strong. Got to give him that. Takedown defense, not bad. Physical guy. And once Alan Patrick goes 0 for 4 on takedowns against Holtzman, he's just lost, man. He's so lost in the striking. Eventually he gets tired. All that athleticism.
It's all single shots from the outside. Like, it's a bunch of nonsense.
And it's
not effective.
Energy.
You're not going to win a decision the way that he's been fighting. Like,
so he loses to Holtzman and he's 35 years old. And I'm thinking, you know what? He gassed pretty good in that fight. He had zero plan B after the takedowns weren't there. And if you can't take down Holtzman, you can't take down theoretically anybody in the top 20 or 15. If you can't take down Scott Holtzman, you're not taking those guys down.
No.
So where's his limitation at? Pretty low at this point. Now he's 37, coming off this 2-year-long layoff. The speed and athleticism got to be a little slower, right?
Is he still training with Jacare? Like, are they still boys?
No, because Jacare's in Orlando training with Mike Perry. So actually, Perry trains by himself now. But Alex Nicholson, yeah. I guess it's really cheap to live in Orlando. So
it's
a sad reality of the fight game, man.
Mm-hmm. No taxes. Keep the money.
Taxes.
Oh, the thing with the hand means the taxes. But yeah, with Patrick, it's like he withdrew from the fight with Diakese 2 months ago, right? Hadn't fought in a few years. Had Christos Giagos fight canceled versus coronavirus. It turned into a Frank Camacho fight canceled due to coronavirus. And then finally, Diakese, haven't been paid in a while. Withdraws from the fight 2 months later, back in it. Long layoff, potential nagging injury there that caused him 37 years old. And he's taking on Bobby Green. That laugh at Bobby Green all you want because of the 1-4-1 stretch he was on. Quarantine Fighter 101, baby. Turns out 8-week, 12-week camps, not for Bobby Green. 3-week camps, in for Bobby Green. Yeah, the fights are close, but every single fight the guy's close in. Him versus Eric Koch, made it too close. But him versus Drakkar, close. He loses. I thought he won. Close fight. Him versus Francisco Trinaldo, he was robbed. But a close fight. Him versus Clay Guida, he should have styled on Clay. But man, he made that a little too dicey for my liking. Takedown defense checked out. Keep that in mind for this Alan Patrick fight, right? And then the Lando Venata fight. The first time he fought Lando was fast. Lando was crisp. Lando arguably beat him in that first fight. Lando lost a point. That's why it ended up being a draw. Mm-hmm. I don't know. How's Lando going to do against Venata? And I liked how confident Bobby was looking. And you know what? He's a guy that takedown defense has kind of been his issue, but he always gets up. Grappling, not bad. His striking, so smooth, very technical. One of the only guys that uses the shoulder roll in MMA, but he lacks any zip on it. He's not knocking out guys. He's hitting them with some nice shots, but he's not quite putting them away. So I really think he's going to give a good account of himself. Either he gets taken down, he just gets back up. And now Alan Patrick gets tired. And Bobby Green just chips away at this guy. But I don't know Pat, hit me with Bobby Green by knockout. because Bobby,
I'm doing my fantasy draft.
Yeah, Pat's got
yeah,
it's all right. I'll look it up for you, Cody. Here, you have a device in front of you too.
Because he hasn't knocked out anybody since kicking James Krause in the balls a pile of times 7 years ago. Last time he cleanly knocked out a guy, I think it was Dom O'Grady or way back in the day. Because there's a massive idea that Bobby Green is not a knockout guy. I'm gonna have a small little flyer on Bobby by knockout if it's that nice
Green
right
by knockout, it's in the plus 400 range.
Plus 400 range. Not on the basis that Bobby Green is suddenly a great power puncher anymore.
Just like he doesn't
on the basis that Alan Patrick might do what he did against Holtzman when he was in better shape 2 years ago. He might just give it his go for the first 5 minutes and then after that kind of tire out and then allow Bobby Green to put him away. So I got Bobby straight up would obviously be the move, and then just a little tiny flyer, I think, by Bobby Green by knockout.
Frank the Crank Camacho takes on Brock Weaver, minus 235. Camacho, plus 185. Weaver. Frank the Crank, I mean,
he's trustworthy now.
He's always in line to get fight of the night. The guy apparently has a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Never uses it. Never even really see him shoot for a takedown. Just wants to bomb with everybody. Hey, we love it as fighters. It's hard to trust as... I mean, the path to victory here is take Brock Weaver down. I don't know if he can. I don't know if his wrestling's good enough. But
his cardio would check out.
The jiu-jitsu, he should be able to get there, get that submission. But he just never does it. So how are you going to trust in somebody to do something that they just... seemingly choose not to do? I guess, getting knocked out first round against Justin James. Justin James comes in super late notice. Not many people were giving him a shot. And, absolutely starches him. Maybe that changes his mentality. The only way he loses this fight here is on the feet. Brock Weaver doesn't even have crazy sort of power. But it's hard to trust Frank the Crank at this point after seeing what he did against Justin James last time out.
You have to 100% watch the weigh-ins. That is going to be a very, very telling factor. This is Frank Camacho, okay? Makes his UFC debut against Jing Liang Li at 170. Fight of the night, baby, 50 Gs. The Damian Brown fight right after that, catch weight of 160. Fight of the night, Camacho, 2 in a row. Drew Dober fight at 170 pounds. Fight of the night.
Dober
3 in a row, baby. Jeff Neal, 170 pounds. Performance bonus for Jeff Neal, who head kicked him in the second round. It was a fun fight. It was not fight of the night. But Neal absolutely starched him. Mm-hmm. And then the Nick Hine fight, he's at 155, makes the weight 155. I thought he looked good in the Hine fight, but Hine just retires immediately afterwards. The Beneil Dariush fight, he makes 155, looked very zapped early in that fight. Black belt versus black belt. Looked like blue belt versus black belt, but all the same, it's Beneil Dariush, so absolutely no shame in that one. And then the Justin James fight, he botches weight. He comes in at 158. Big favorite. James is super late. I think that affected him on a bad weight cut, and then James just bum rushed him and knocked him out. This is kind of a quick turnaround when you consider it's a little less than 3 months. Camacho did get knocked out. I think his best fights, all those fight of the nights, all those he stands there and just goes tit for tat and slugs it out with you, his best fights are all 170 pounds. At 155, I think it leaves a little bit to be desired even on the regional scene. He was a guy that always gassed the later the fight goes, but he just puts it on the line with you. Him getting knocked out by Justin James officially now makes him very untrustworthy. Brock Weaver, I'd love to say, you know what? Let's take a poke at that plus 185 dog money, baby. I just don't think Brock Weaver is very talented at all. One thing he does got going for him is maybe a little bit of durability. He's kind of got some decent size for the weight class. He's been in there with some big guys and kind of given a good account of himself. It shows on his record that he's been knocked out just one time in his career. But also, I remember he fought Joe Riggs, bare knuckle boxing, right? Joe Riggs, 185 pounds, easily came in on Fight Night at 205. It's bare knuckle. He went the distance with him. The Rodrigo Vargas fight, it looked like he got rocked, but it's an illegal strike that ends it. The Roosevelt Roberts fight, the grappling kind of is what throws him off. he doesn't look like my guy. Doesn't look like he's got the skills whatsoever. The only way he potentially beats Camacho is after the first round, Camacho starts to get tired. It's a bad wake up for Camacho, and Weaver just lands something and knocks him out. I'm not willing to bet that. It's a good dog price. I'm just not willing to bet it. Camacho is the better striker. He's the better wrestler. He's got, technically speaking, the more durability, a lot more experience. The power for days. Honestly, if Rodrigo Cazulo Vargas is going to hurt you, sting you like that, it's like Cazulo Vargas is a poor man's Frank Camacho. It's that Camacho's been in so many wars. Those fight of the nights took something out of him. The weight cuts took something out of him. The Justin James fight may have potentially taken something out of him. And now you're looking at a minus 235 when he just lost as a minus 300 a few months ago. I just can't quite get behind it. So as much as Weaver seems like a tempting enough dog play because it is a big price, I think the move here is just a flat pass. And it should be a very fun fight. So enjoy it for what it is. And 12 fight card. I don't feel like I need to force any real spot. I'd like a lot of other fights instead of this one. So I'm thinking watch Camacho at the weigh-ins. That's going to be very telling. He would be my pick ever so slightly, but a pass is probably in order.
Brian Barberena takes on Anthony Ivy. Barberena, minus 285 favorite. Anthony Ivy, plus 220. I mean, I already said earlier on that I had parlayed Billy Quarantillo and Brian Barberena, guys that kind of fight for your money. I feel better about Barberena in this spot. I'm not very impressed by what I've seen from Anthony Ivy.
What have you seen?
I mean, he got absolutely bombed on by Christian Aguilera. But no, watched him versus Willis Black.
Yeah, I didn't think he looked terrible there, but he's very green. He
got dominated the first 2 rounds. Like it was, and then basically Willis Black just absolutely gassed to smithereens. Round 3 starts to take over. Round 4.
5-round fight, yeah.
Round 4. It was round 4 that he gets the finish there. I mean, he's got all the technical. I don't know. He just looks real basic. And you gotta be. I don't see the stinging power. Now we've seen with Barberena, the guy's been, and we were talking about Frank Camacho being in wars. Brian Barberena has been in wars against everybody, and now you start to have the questions of is that durability, that legendary durability that this guy's always had. Kind of the guy that loses round 1 every single fight, and then just on sheer stick-to-itiveness moves forward and just puts on a pace that most guys can't keep up with. I don't see very much in terms of a threat, in terms of the power coming back from Anthony Ivy in this spot. I think Brian Barberena should cruise. I'm not worried about him getting knocked out. That fight against
Aguilera.
No. Brian Barberena's last fight.
Randy Brown.
Randy Brown. I mean, round 1 loses. Round 2, he wins round 2. Round 3,
he tired pretty good.
He tired a bit, but it was just really, really good shots landed by.
Brown put it on him.
And
Brown knocked him out.
He's giving up a lot of, and similar to this matchup here. But I kind of think Anthony Ivy's just like a poor man's Randy Brown with way less of a ceiling. And these guys are basically the same age as well. Anthony Ivy probably only ends up in the UFC because of COVID, really.
Yeah.
I think Bam Bam gets back on track here. As obviously, I parlayed him with Billy Quarantillo, but this could be another spot where Bam Bam always starts a little bit slow. You could probably catch something. You may be able to catch something live. I feel less confident about that than the Billy fight, where I think Billy probably loses the first couple of minutes and then comes on. Barberena could just dominate from the get-go here.
Could be. So the problem with Brian Barberena is that, that legendary toughness and that grit eventually did come back to bite him in the ass. I mean, he just took a lot of fights that probably should have thought a few times about, could have maybe taken the easier path. But hey, he's a warrior. He's a fighter. He wants to go out there. He wants to fight the best guys possible. But his body just slowly started to break down on him. After he beat the Jake Ellenberger fight, now mind you, his run, the big upset over over Sage Northcutt, follows it up with the big upset of Warley Alves. The 2 losses after that, decision losses to Colby Covington and Leon Edwards. Talk about elite class at welterweight. Brian Barberena should be a lightweight, but he campaigns as a 170, loses to Covington and Leon Edwards, both by decision. Dominated, absolutely dominated. But good account of himself. Around this point, he gets a back issue, right? It starts out as just a minor back issue, but eventually turns into like a nerve issue. Mm-hmm. Eventually, he says his head starts hurting, his neck starts hurting, his arms start hurting, his legs start hurting. He's in a lot of fucking pain. But what does he do? He goes out and beats Jake Ellenberger and then has a fight with Vicente Luque. Was not only the fight of the night, It's rated as the 25th greatest welterweight fight of all time, the 92nd greatest fight of all time, and the 4th best fight for 2019. Gets knocked out with 6 seconds left in a legendary fight. Rewatch it. I encourage you. That he is in, baby. He is in with Vicente Luque, and he gets caught right at the end. Legendary fight. 4 months later, to take that Randy Brown fight just seems stupid. Now, by his own account, he goes to the doctor and he says, Doc, my back's seriously messed up. They tell him, you can do this surgery and you'll never fight again. Or you can get this injection. He takes the injection, pain's away for 1 week, goes back to the doctor, second injection, different injection. He says pain goes away for 3 weeks. Comes back to the doctors, gets a third injection, doesn't do anything. Needs a little bit of money, needs a little bit of dough, takes the Randy Brown fight. Fucked physically. 4 months after getting
Good
his
account of himself in that situation.
Yeah, didn't fight all that bad, right? So after this fight, he says after the Randy Brown fight, he's like, I cannot do this anymore. And so he goes out and he gets a second opinion. And this doctor's like, yo, I can do this back surgery. You'll be back going in 6 months rehab, right? Nate Quarry used to fight in the UFC back in the day. He had the exact same surgery 10 years ago. Modern medical technology, baby, has come a long way in 10 years. He had his back fused. He came back and he fought in the UFC. And he fought okay. Barberena goes out and reaches out to Nate Quarry and just talks to this guy and like, you know, how did you go through it? And so part of me is worried. Don't bet a guy with a back injury in any sport. Don't. But look what this guy was doing in all that kind of pain. Look what this guy was doing and accomplishing. Overachiever, sure, he always has been. He wants it so bad. Fight for your money, as we talked about many times on the show. This guy wants it so bad. He'll go through hell or high water to get it. And on the flip side, Anthony Ivy got punched one fucking time in the face and was like, whoops, this shit ain't for me. Now, the UFC knows Bryan Barberena has put on some legendary wars. He's always signed on the dotted line. He's coming in as a 5-1 underdog for them many of times. They owe him one. He's on 2-fight losing streak. He's fought good guys. Who could you possibly give Bryan Barberena as a comeback fight? Test his back. Don't hurt him. Anthony Ivy. Because Anthony Ivy is not Phil Ivey. And Phil Ivey is a natural-born winner, especially at Baccarat. Oh, baby. But what I'm saying is I got Bryan Barberena as well. 285 because of the year-long layoff and the back issue and the 2-fight losing streak, knocked out in both those fights. That's all worrisome. But I think the UFC is giving him a hey, Brian, if you can't beat Phil Ivey, you're done. Or sorry, if you can't beat Anthony Ivy, my boy Phil.
Yeah, you don't belong at this level
right?
at
Well,
all
then we know.
We don't feel comfortable putting you against the Vicente Luques or the next Vicente Luque. He's always been kind of a gauge fighter for this division.
Yeah, and being a gauge fighter is, turns out Colby Covington, really good. Turns out Leon Edwards, really good. Turns out Vicente Luque is really good. But Ivy, not good. Gatekeepers need to win these type of fights to get those other ones. And he's got to go show medically he's back in it. So I got Bryan Barberena, but again, there's a little bit of buyer beware there just because of the medical history.
Maybe you got something to say about this one, because I don't, and the numbers are telling me to stay away. We got Sabina Mazo taking on Justine Kish, minus 265, Mazo. And Kish can be had for plus 200. 9,200 Mazo is that is just, she'll be the lowest owned person on the slate, I would imagine.
Well, I see a lot of love for her coming in, so money coming in. King's MMA pupil, really tall for the weight class, good striker, but she's only 23 years old, so I think the hype there is that she's gonna just get better and better every fight, and they've been matching her up fairly easy in the sense Shayna Dobson, JJ Aldrich, Justine Kish now, but I agree 100% with what you're saying. 265. What did it open at? Just out of curiosity, I see you got it open.
About the same, minus 285, and now it's actually moved up to in some places you can get it minus 245.
Yeah,
or so.
yeah.
I understand the dog play. Justine Kish just doesn't throw enough volume or anything for you to get on board. I could see this going to decision and Mazo just edging it out just on more activity, because Justine Kish just doesn't land very much. She's giving up a lot in terms of reach. I imagine most of this fight probably takes place on the feet. I would be interested in Kish if she didn't throw 15 strikes per round, but I can't get on board with it.
You know what? Looking at the numbers, she tends to throw a little bit more than that, but not compared to Mazo, who just eclipses 100 strikes in almost all of her fights. Kish's advantage here is that she's freaking strong, man. Very, very strong girl. But her ring IQ is just right down the shitter. And as a result, she just fights very entertaining. I say by the shitter. Remember she shit her pants? That's a low-key joke for you guys that didn't get it. Her versus Felice Herrig.
Not really a low-key joke when
Look it
you
up.
follow it up by
Well,
telling
because
people
I was
you
like,
just told them a low-key joke.
that one's too good to just fly over 95% of the fan base's head.
Does
So,
she know Odell Beckham?
Odell Beckham Kish? No.
Oh, because Odell Beckham.
Did he
likes
also
getting-
shout
No, he
himself?
liked getting pooped on.
Pooped on?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Oh my
likes getting,
God.
There's
What'd that be called? A rusty
there's
shower?
like this there's this podcast. I saw a clip for it. There's this podcast with like a bunch of girls that frequent you know,
Two Girls, One Cup. Do you remember that shit from back in the day, bro? That was like
girls
the start
that just
of
happen
computers.
to when they
The
go
internet, I
into
should
different
say.
wherever
Oof.
they go. I don't know.
Oof.
Either way, I don't know.
I don't even want to talk about
if
that,
you write it,
man.
I'm sure you could find the clip if you really want to find the clip.
Yeah,
We got off track here.
Kish was my girl once upon a time, right? Comes to the UFC, fights Nina Ansarov, got the takedown. She's so physically strong. The Ashley Yoder fight, she didn't look good, but so physically strong, she gets the win. The Felice Herrig fight, it was a real lesson in ring IQ. Felice Herrig just fought an incredibly better fight, took her down, took her back, controlled her, won the fight. The Ji-Yeon Kim fight, it's close. I thought Kish won. Kish outstruck her. I thought personally Kish should have won that decision. The Pudilova fight, she puts it on her. She's not giving a bad account of herself. The problem is that this is another fighter that's dealt with a lot of injuries. She's on The Ultimate Fighter. She had to get pulled from the show due to a knee injury. Prior to the Lucy Pudilova fight, she was coming off a near 2-year-long layoff. She's dealt with a lot of injuries. And yeah, she's got that strength, and yeah, she's got that physicality. But as you're talking about the numbers, right? 62 land against Pudilova, 96 land against Ji-Yeon Kim, 40 land against Felice Herrig, albeit she got taken down twice. 72, that's probably her best against Nina Ansarov. When you look at Mazo, is that not only is she young and getting better, but I mean, 118 strikes land against JJ Aldrich, and yet somehow, some judge scored the fight for JJ Aldrich. Like, what? She's getting better. Her clinch game nasty because she's got nasty elbows. She got nasty knees. It's a good tie clinch game. Kish could theoretically get the fight to the ground and then hold her down. I just don't know that I trust Kish enough to do it. So the pick would be Mazo. However, that 265 is just staring you in the face like I am going to shit in your pie. The one saving grace is first fight of the night. So you could theoretically rebuild if you put Mazo on it. It is what it is. Now, Justine Kish is durable. And to that extent, Mazo's gone the distance with JJ Aldrich and Shayna Dobson in her last 2 fights. Prior to that, she went the distance with Marina Moroz, lost the Moroz fight. But her 3 fights in the UFC had a bin decision. Yeah, she's lengthy. Yeah, she's rangy. Yeah, she's improving. Yeah, she's a dangerous striker. Yeah, she had that run of head kicks in LFA. But Justine Kish is very durable. So if you are going to take Mazo, you don't take it at 265. You try to run it by decision to get some additional value.
All right, Pat, you got any questions there, bud? Or are you just too busy, too deep in the weeds?
No. I'm in my last round. I'm in the 17th round, so I got to take a defense, and I'm all good to go.
Squad? How's your squad?
It's fucking shit. I sold my team off last year, ran for a title, and then Saquon got hurt, and I was done for. So now I'm stuck with Gary and as all my picks. So I have Julio Jones and like James Conner. It's not good. Hopefully some of these 17th round keepers will come through for me. I might take Cordero Patterson here because hey, he might end up being a starter. Either way, UFC, DraftKings wise. I've been like half listening, switching the cameras, mind you, and putting up the graphics in the right spot, shockingly enough. So I'm going to run what you guys do, but I think I'm going to play a whole bunch of lineups this week because I'm just excited that there are 12 fights on this. And I'm jazzed for football, DK.
Jinxed it already.
Well, even if we get 10, that's much better than last week. So I do want to throw it out to the people out there that FTNDaily.com, they have the SaberSim product. So if you do want to make like 25 lineups, you can just optimize your lineup and put in your projections. It'll make stuff really easy that you don't have crossover fights. Use code Mayo for that. But like, who's the one lock outside of Nam on this that I need to have in my lineup?
I think Nam's a lock? Shit. I mean, I'm just
Well, I don't think he's a lock, but he's minus 125 and he's $7,400.
Yes.
I'm gonna probably play
that is
Mike
fair.
Rodriguez because 8,800 allows you don't have to get too greasy and go down to a bunch of like jabronis at the bottom of the board here. And I do think Custy Old Ed's not going to be able to take it. I think he's done.
Yeah, no, you know what? I mean, looking at it from my standpoint, the guys that I want to pay a little bit more for is I'm looking at Brian Barberena. Billy and Brian Barberena, because just the sheer output, these guys just continue to put it on you. And to a lesser extent, if you were going to take somebody Frevola, but Frevola, not enough striking in there, not enough transitional work, mostly just relies on the takedowns, and 4 is just not going to be enough for me. Tyson Nam at 7,600, massive upside. He could definitely score a lot. Angela Hill at 8,200. She could easily score over
5
100
rounds,
significant
lots
strikes.
of volume
5 rounds,
historically.
lots of strikes. Otman Azaitar, $7,700. I mean,
You
the
like
guy's-
him.
The guy's the kind of guy that you'd want on your GPP
It
team
would be
just
first
because
round finish if he wins.
high upside if he does win, and at the very least, he's
He
just
could
going to throw
win
bombs.
second or third round knockout too. He definitely has 3-round cardio from what I've seen.
Yeah, and he's dangerous the whole way through. So one thing that really stood out to me as well is Common Worthy made a dumbass statement. You hear it all the time. I shouldn't say dumbass. It's just very cliche. Where they were like, "Oh, why do you fight so reckless?" And he's like, "I'm not a DJ. I don't care about records." And it's just like, oh, he's not British, by the way, but that was just my British impression because DJs are more of a British profession to me. Anyways, when you say things like, "I like to fight reckless because I don't care about records. I just want to have fun fights and I just want to, go for bonuses and wow the fans. And hey, I've won 2 in the UFC as an underdog. If I get starched out here, it doesn't matter. I'm still gonna." That's a bad mentality, man. Ahmed Azaitar, they're looking to build him. He's looking to win. He's not looking
He's
at
12-0.
Yeah, and so I think at some point, because it's going to be, let's have a fun fight. Common Worthy wants to have a fun fight. One of those missiles, those torpedoes, is going to clip him, and that'll be it. So high upside for $7,700. Hill, because of the 5 rounds in the output, decent upside for $8,200. Tyson Nam, a lot of high upside considering doesn't throw a whole lot, but he could knock out Schnell. And then as far as higher price guys, I like Barberena and Billy Cantillo. Theoretically, if that was your roster, you'd have $8,200 left. Like you could afford a Matt Frevola, you could afford a Brock Weaver if you wanted to go that direction. But
It gets dicey down
you
there.
could afford an Ed Herman because maybe he just Jungs him. But outside of that, like if he doesn't, you probably want Mike Rodriguez on your lineup instead.
Dong Jung may not be too bad.
You know what? Give him 2 art of a time. He looked good against Barrio. He looked good against Herman. And he took a beating against Cody Sabragimov early and came back. Sorry, he never fought Herman. It caught us. But yeah. Maybe we're not. He's a big Korean bruiser, man. He certainly hits hard. He certainly got that power. So yeah, maybe we're being a little bit unfair. He's got a massive amount of punching power that Ed Herman won't have. But what I'm saying is, when you look at that low end, as far as a punt, right? It's like, geez, Kyle Nelson's only $6,900, but I don't see him getting that finish, right? Roxanne Modafferi, 7,300. If she gets takedowns, but there's no ground and pound. Herman could theoretically get a knockout. Weaver could theoretically get a knockout. Frevola could theoretically score 4 takedowns, maybe get a submission, but grind this guy and win. And then your other option at 8,000 is Michelle Waterson, because we're taking Hill. We're not taking Waterson. But at least you have an option at getting a 5-round fighter for 8,000, right? Different options for this week, but a lot of options. It's not a 7-fight slate. It's 12-fight slate. Way easier than last week. That being said, they should give an over-under prop on how many of these fights fall off, because you could easily see it being a few.
Yeah, which fight do you think is the most likely to fall off? Because we just have to be used to it. We have to be ready. If you're putting in DraftKings lineups, you got to be ready on Saturday after. Like if you have your entire day, you don't plan on ever looking, like you're gonna have to be careful. Like,
okay, so first and foremost,
of course, with like bets and stuff, if something gets voided, it's off the card. That's fine. You get your money back. Your lineup is a lineup, so you gotta be on the ball. And I mean, I was looking at the card. What was it? A few weeks ago, there was like 14 fights that pulled off. Is the Trevin Giles, like fainted backstage.
There's always shit happening.
I had Kevin Hall in that
But
night.
what
There's
I would
nothing you could have
say,
done.
what I would say is Camacho versus Weaver could fall off because Camacho in a bad weight cut. Alan Patrick hasn't fought in 2 years, could have a bad weight cut, and he's got bailout because of COVID symptoms written all over him. Straight up. Eubanks and Avila could be a bit of a cursed fight. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen there.
I mean, Sajara Eubanks. Did she actually end up cutting?
Azaitar's coming from Morocco, and then he's been spending a lot of time in the Middle East. So you don't know if
How
there
much
could be
did
a
Sajara
visa
cut
issue or
last time? I
something.
know that Rosa was pulled out the day before, so she probably didn't have to get too deep into
She
her
was
weight
probably
cut.
within 8 pounds, and it wasn't all that bad. But the way the human body works, especially the older you get, is that like starving yourself for a few days and switching up your diet is different. And then the fight's off. Okay, then you eat a little bit. Oh, your fight got rebooked. And same thing with Herman, right? Herman, I'm not getting rebooked. He's sipping margaritas poolside. Oh, now you are getting rebooked. Oh shit, I can't. But am I getting rebooked next week? Is it gonna be the week after that? Is the week after that? Like, you just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty, right? I would say if you're Eubanks, you get a worst fight in Julia Avila than the one that just got canceled on you, really, against Carol Rosa, being that Carol Rosa is very green still, makes a lot of mistakes. Theoretically, might be able to get her down and grappler. With Avila, again, it's like better athlete, good cardio, striking's on point. Grappling seems actually very underrated. Like, you don't have to see her use it a whole bunch, but it checks out. I've been impressed with what I've seen from her so far. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I like the card.
Speaking of getting too ahead of it, I wanted to ask you before we even get off the air, and it's not even on this week's card. Dern probably submits Ronda Marcos in the first round, right?
Can Dern take Ronda Marcos down?
She has to grab a hold of her.
I know, but Ronda Marcos is actually one of the better
Can
wrestlers
Ronda
in the
Marcos
division. Just beat her just by throwing right hands?
fight
Which she does
fight
in
at
most of her
range
fights?
for 15 minutes without
Just
getting
throw right
caught?
hands.
I don't know.
I don't
We'll talk
know,
about that
man.
next week.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that next week.
Chimaev is on the card next week.
Yeah, Chimaev. You know what? If Mearshart wins, they should give Mearshart Damian Maia. Just as a whole baby. But that saying, I don't see him beating
He
Chimaev.
claimed to be.
We'll see. He's got a lot more experience. Good submission
Claimed to
game.
be Hazmat's kryptonite.
You know what is a Russian Sambo specialist, wrestling specialist kryptonite is? Triangle choke. And yeah. I mean, Gerald Mearshart got a good triangle. I just don't see it.
I think
just
Hamzat
think-
just beats him on the feet.
I know,
is
but
what's
how
gonna
many
happen.
M1
You watch,
fights,
like, he hasn't
Fight
had to
Nights
use
Global, ACA, how many times you seen that triangle beat them? It's the move. And if you don't get that triangle, they fuck your ass up.
Ankalaev.
Oh,
Ankalaev versus Craig. Just
Oh
comes to
yeah,
mind.
well that comes to mind. But I mean, the whole history of Russians losing fights as big favorites is triangle jokes.
That's true. Any final questions, Pat? You're good?
I'm good.
I think that wraps it up for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Oh, yeah.
Hit him with the PRP.
Hit him with the PRP. Pat just wants to make a bet.
Poggy Rob Perlet.
Yeah.
We're gonna take Angela Hill. We're gonna take Otman Azaitar as our dog number 1. Andrea Lee. Just reading.
My
off the page.
bad, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Mike Rodriguez, Billy Cantillo, Tyson Nam, Julia Avila, Matt Frevola, dog number 2, Bobby Green, Frank Camacho. Honestly, I got a bad feeling about that, but I'm gonna take Camacho. Brian Barberena and Sabina Mazo. Now, again, we only got 2 underdogs officially. We did talk about a couple props in this that you can make an Angela Hill into an underdog by taking her by decision. A couple props I don't mind that are gonna be plus money. And you know what? I'm just gonna take the 3 or 4 fights I like from this card. Put it with the 3 or 4 fights I like with the Bellator.
Yeah,
card.
who are the picks on Bellator?
Well, I haven't looked at it as much as I want,
All
but
right,
just
well,
but just
I don't
looking
wanna
at
put
it
you on the
quick.
spot.
No, yeah, we don't have.
I mean, I see Katzengano's a minus 1,000.
Yeah, that you don't want no part of. Oh, here's a funny one for
Wait,
you.
should I blindly take the other side of that?
I mean, that would go with the
Yeah,
Pat
that would be
Mayo.
Pat's
Pat
narrative.
Mayo women's MMA. Is that at 145 as well?
Yeah, and I
So
thought
it's Katzengano not taking her conditioning as seriously because she has another 10
she's
pounds.
thick, 2 C's.
She's always been thick, yeah.
Give me some
She got rid of her
Gabrielle
wrestling clothes,
Holloway.
though.
There
Yeah,
we go.
well, Gabrielle Holloway is a big, strong girl. Natural 45er. Used to fight at 155, I'm pretty sure. And I thought the price was off at minus 750, and it's minus 1,000 now. You'll find this one funny. Tyrell Fortune is a minus 600
I
favorite.
remember Jack.
No, remember Timothy Johnson? I had Fortune as a minus 600 favorite against Timothy Johnson. And you told me, you're like, dude, don't ever bet a heavyweight at minus 600 in a Bellator fight. And I was like, dude can wrestle, man. Watch. And it was like a colossal overhand right. Only fight I got wrong on the card. And I had him just parlay to the tits. And now he's a minus 600 favorite
Jack
again.
May is is not
terrible,
a
terrible.
He fought in the UFC. Was
And
one
Titan.
of the worst.
He's 6'7" though. So I'm just saying
He's
heavyweights
a big
again.
boy, but yeah, big boys. It gets real dicey.
Yeah.
Plus 500 is almost like auto bet there.
Yeah, Davis, if you're going to go Davis, you go Davis by decision. Again, that's going to be a much closer fight than it's lined up. Katzengano, you don't want her at minus 1,000. Ed Ruth, my boy. Taylor Johnson was on Contender Series. He's super strong and just goes for it. Good wrestling, but good wrestling. He's not taking down Ed Ruth. And by the way, Johnson's got 1 round of cardio. So Ed Ruth takes that one, even though he's 290. Raymond Daniels, 370. When you're that one-dimensional as a kickboxer, you'll have those flashy knockouts, MVP style. But like depending on the matchup, and I don't know too much against Peter Statanik to look at you in the eye and say, yeah, let's throw Raymond Daniels at that price on some. Carvalho, former champion, so minus 140 seems very low for him. Fortune should roll through, but yeah, he just got knocked out. May's a big
Keith
boy.
Lee, Kevin Lee's brother.
Yeah, Keith Lee. Now, Keith Lee just won a fight in Bellator as a plus 400 underdog, and now he's coming in as a minus 240 favorite over a durable
He beat
Brazilian.
Laramie, didn't he?
No, I got his ass kicked by Tony Laramie, the younger brother of TJ.
Yes.
That was his MMA debut a long time
I
ago.
say he fought him. I didn't say he beat him. Did I say he beat him?
I think he did, but it doesn't matter. That was his UFC debut, but it's at 135. Tony's a natural 125er. I don't know. I can't get behind Keith Lee, but that's the Friday Bellator show. Then there's another Saturday Bellator show.
Oh, dear.
I like Patchy Mix 150 over Juan Archuleta. Juan Archuleta, better wrestler, seems like he's a good striker, but Patchy Mix just finds a way to get to the ground.
You see his like Instagram posts? That guy looks like he's taking his strength and conditioning very seriously.
He is the #1 training partner for DJ Dillashaw, who used to take his strength and conditioning very seriously. And Juan's just like, yeah, this guy's coming back and he's going to be champ again. It's just like, yeah, because you spend all this time with him.
Patchy Mix, what a name.
Wait, one second. I'm confused. You just named off like the entire card. Which guys are we betting here?
Well, now we're talking about Bellator.
Cody will post them.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to post all that. No, I've already done the PRP. I'm just saying some Bellator picks.
Based on what I was following along, I made some notes when you were going through your bets. So I like Angela Hill by decision, Julia by decision, and all the 3 women's fights favorites by decision you seem to like.
Yeah. I got, this is just personally, Hill by decision, Azaitar by knockout, Lee by decision, Rodriguez by knockout, Billy Quarantillo by third round submission, Tyson Nam by second round knockout, Julia Avila by decision, Matt Frevola by decision, Bobby Green, probably smart move, just like he always does, is Bobby Green by decision. I got a feeling maybe a late third round stoppage. Camacho and Weaver, like, oh, who the fuck knows, man? But someone's going down, you got to assume. And I'm thinking, I don't even know, man. Camacho has hit guys with big shots and they stood up to him.
I don't want to trust him at the
yeah, that could go either way, and it could be a decision or a knockout. Like, there's a lot of volatility to that one. Brian Barberena, you got to think, if Ivy doesn't like getting punched in the face, how's he going to get punched in the face 100 times? Which is what Brian can do.
Brian's just going to push forward. He's going to try to hold him up against the cage. He's going to make it real dirty.
And he's not
going to get first round finish most times.
Doesn't got a ton of power, but he could break down Ivy. Ivy don't like it in
be
there.
A late finish or
Kish,
decision.
Kish versus Mazo is going to decision. I can almost guarantee that. So you're probably going to get about 4 finishes on this card. Hopefully they're on your DraftKings team.
Yeah.
And let's make some money. I think we hit the 4-leg parlays last week, so it was like plus 500. But so many cancellations really stole value.
I told you that we missed our sneak attack on Alexander Romanov too, which sucks because now the next time he gets booked, especially if it's against, like, he's not going to get. That was a cupcake matchup for him. Exactly what he wants to do is drag you out, lay on you, wear you down is exactly what
Romanov would have done to De Lima.
Yeah, get Rogerio De Lima, that's his kryptonite.
Of course. And
as long as he doesn't get knocked out in the first 2 minutes, it would have been easy. And I had a minus 105 on that.
You know what?
They rebooked that. They're gonna rebook it at like minus 150, minus 160. Like that number's gone forever. That CLV gone.
You know who fucked us in that one? That son of a bitch with the goddamn little cotton swab that put it up De Lima's nose and tested him. Because if not, he makes the fight. And if not, this man has 2 minutes of cardio. If he would have fought with COVID, 35 seconds worth of cardio. My boy Romanov would have pulled it off. But a loss, what can you do? Have to move on to the next one. Very nice doing the show with you, Paul.
Absolutely, as always. So yeah, that wraps it up for us this week. Thank you to Cody Saftic for breaking down the fights with me. As always, thank you to producer Pat for keeping us on track, letting us know about the DraftKings pricing and all of that. For Pat and Cody, I'm Paul saying goodbye and good luck.
Mayo experience! Experience!